over here without you.
City Abari.
It's good to be back.
Good to have you back.
Asante.
Big things to be discussed today.
Yes.
And many questions to be asked, but CT is going to do the business and welcome you properly for today's proverb.
Our proverbs for the whole of this week are from the country of Niger. You know, for the longest time, before I met and got to know Ndu, I knew it was called Niger.
Yes.
And she told me, sir.
Did I say sir? Okay.
Niger River is Niger River and it's in Nigeria.
Yes.
That country is called Niger. I said, oh, okay. So, Niger. He who does not mend his clothes will soon have none. That's a proverb for the day.
He who does not mend his habits
will soon have none.
Or we'll have bad habits.
Or we'll have bad habits. Atamalizika.
And that is a good one.
And that is a good one. Okay. Needs no interpretation. Okay. So, Jimmy, we've been having questions, sometimes worrying conversations, actually most times worrying conversations about fiscal responsibility in Kenya. What owed, what not owed, what truly owed, what could be the problem. Another one of those elements is Eurobonds. Let's do a little bit of background to this. So before we get into some definitions about exactly what's going on, $2 billion is staring Kenya in the face. June 2024, latest Eurobond payment must be made. Not can we make it, not is it possible that we make it later. No, June 2024 Eurobond payment must be made. It's a debt. First of all, what is the Eurobond, and why does Kenya then have that debt responsibility of paying it?
Wonderful. As I said, it's good to be back. I think just to give you context, let us talk about all the Eurobonds that were taken and come back to your 2 billion that are due this coming financial year. The first Eurobond, which is what you're saying is to be taken, is to be paid this year, was $2 billion taken 10 years ago, owed to Standard Chartered Bank through JP Morgan Stanley. JP Morgan Chase, in fact, is the word. And this was a 10-year bond payable, as you said, June next year. The second Eurobond was taken, creditor is Citibank. This is due February 2028. $1 billion. Another billion was taken by creditor Citibank, due again February 28th, $1 billion. So that's $2 billion due in 2028. Then you have another one by Citi, what they call Citigroup Global Markets Europe AG, $900 million, payable in equal installments commencing 2025 May. And you have another one, so Citigroup Global Markets Europe AG, of $1.2 billion, commencing again payments in 3 equal installments starting 2030 to 2022. So the total Eurobonds taken have been $6.1 billion, just to give a global perspective. That in today's value is over 900 billion Kenya shillings.
Okay.
So 6.1, 900 billion shillings plus.
Okay. Okay.
So that's an important perspective. Now, you've asked a very good question. Why were they taken? I think I've been here before, and I don't want to belabor the point about what is called authentic debt. Why do we take debt? We take debt for only 2 purposes. One is for development, and the second is for short-term cash flow problems that the Treasury may be facing. And those 2 provisions are anchored in PFM law, section 15.2, where it says you can only borrow for development.
Yes.
you cannot borrow for recurrent expenditure. And Section 53, which says you shall only borrow for the budget as approved by Parliament. And this approval is done in the appropriations, allocations for loans as approved by Parliament. So the law is very clear.
Yeah.
Now, the short-term cash flow problems can only be 5% of the last audited accounts. So in the last audited accounts, you had a revenue of about, tax returns, you had a revenue of about 1.9 trillion. So the maximum probably could take is about 90 billion Kenya shillings as an overdraft at CBK. So this is very clear. So what was the Eurobond of 2024? Now, this was the first Eurobond the country took. And it was heralded as a milestone. I remember the president at the time on the steps of State House talking about how people are very interested in investing in the Eurobond. And his statement was very telling. And I don't know why people didn't draw much attention to it. He said, we are borrowing this so that we don't have to borrow money locally anymore. So we are getting out of the domestic market. But he did not say what it was going to fund.
Yes.
Slowly but surely, they tried to say that it is funding infrastructure. In other words, development. Now, we have audited all these accounts, and I want to state here categorically, without any contradiction, any fear of any contradiction, that all the Eurobonds, including this 2 billion, have not funded one project, one project in the development budgets of the last 10 years. None. None I can assure you, none.
Jimmy?
Yes.
So where did the money go?
Yes. Now, this is what I want to explain, and I said last time, I shall begin that explanation. It is very interesting that about 2015, 2016, a very good friend of mine, the late Jacob Juma, brought this to my attention. And I'll tell you a human interest story here because I think it's important. Jacob Juma had been analyzing the quarterly reports of the Treasury. And he said, I thought we were borrowing Eurobonds so that we don't borrow domestic.
Yes.
But when I look at the quarterly reports, it is showing that we are borrowing domestic.
In addition to having got
in addition to receiving the Eurobond.
Okay.
And it's the exact amount, roughly about 200, 300 billion shillings at the time, as the Eurobond. So it seems like we didn't stop. So where is the permission in the budget to borrow Eurobond? This must have been a heist. At the time, 2015, I was working very closely with Raila Amolo Odinga. And we presented this to him. And we agreed that the way we'll address it is by asking the Treasury questions. So he very quickly got his able legal man called Paul Mwangi to write on his behalf to Henry Rotich, who was then heading the Treasury. And Henry Rotich was given a deadline, 14 days, under which he should publish where the monies of Eurobond are, whether they came into the country and what they have been spent for. And Raila said at the time that in 14 days he shall go to the Treasury and collect this evidence. The night before the deadline was over, the Treasury very gladly posted on the website all the details of the Eurobond transactions, from beginning to what we perceived was the end. And we were very excited.
But what they presented was the end.
Good one, CT. Now, what was most interesting is that they tried to explain their story, and it did not make sense to any of us. So they said that they received a total of $1.99 billion, almost $2 billion, from JP Morgan Stanley. So on June 19th, 2014, they say an account was opened, a JP Morgan Stanley account in New York for the Eurobond receipt. Now, I can see you squinting your eyes.
I'm concerned.
Because that was the beginning of what we call the money laundering scheme of Eurobond. Complete money laundering. The law is very clear about where our monies go. The consolidated fund, which in PFM is called the Exchequer account, National Exchequer account.
Yes.
Is where all monies, all revenues received by government must go. Taxes, debt, everything. Because it is from there, as you had the controller budget here a few months ago, actually now, where she says she gives approval for any transaction that goes out.
Yeah.
So for the central bank or the national treasury to open an account outside of here to receive revenues on our behalf is the first stage of illegality.
So what if, let's look at it very simply here. If you were borrowing money as Kenya,
Yes.
it only makes sense that the institution or the entity that was loaning you this money
Yes.
would put the money in your account.
That is the law.
Yeah, but
Is it not?
But let me ask, which account?
No.
It's only one account.
It's only one account
It's
that
called
should
the
receive
National
money.
Exchequer account,
Yeah,
which is
that
the
would receive money.
consolidated fund.
There's a reason.
That is the constitution.
Yes.
The constitution.
Yeah.
Because that is the only place that you can then spend.
So you can receive and
government
transact on
expenditure.
that only according to
Only.
the law.
I get that. The reason why I'm asking is when we borrow money from one of these Bretton Woods institutions,
Yes.
is it the same requirement?
Yes.
Yes,
It comes
it goes
direct.
to the same account.
All right, let me ask the question. Where then does this role of us needing to have an account with the Federal Reserve of the U.S., one of the Federal Reserve, whether it's in New York or wherever, and where does JP Morgan Chase then come in?
Now, this account did not go to Federal Reserve. This is an account at JP Morgan Chase, not the Federal Reserve.
This one is just a simple, ordinary bank account with a bank.
With a bank.
Because for purposes of clarity, Jimmy,
Yes.
JP Morgan Chase is a bank.
It is a bank.
It's a commercial bank.